Hello everyone, my name is Fatima Jakombajabi, a Rienta the Gambia representative living in Sweden, Gothenburg. At Rienta the Gambia, we talk about issues affecting the country and look for way forward. We also help in promoting Gambian entrepreneurs living in the country and abroad. And I am your host for the Reality Show on your favorite platform, Rienta the Gambia. On the Reality Show, we'll bring you hot debated topics on issues affecting the sustainable development of the Gambia and more. Please follow us and like our page on Facebook, Re-Enter the Gambia, for more educative and great programs.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, wonderful viewers. My name is Fatima Jakombaja Job, and I am your host for the reality show on your favorite platform, Re-Enter the Gambia. Today is a very, very important show because we have an exclusive Q&A with our Honorable Mr. Halifa Sallah. Mr. Halifa Sallah, welcome on the Re-Enter the Gambia platform.
Thank you very much.
And we are very happy to have you here today. And I'd love you to introduce yourself before we go further.
Well, I am Halifa Sallah. I am the Secretary General of the UIS, a political party in the Gambia. But I'm a member of the National Assembly of the Gambia and a member of the EU ACP, that is Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific Parliamentary Assembly. I am here touring Northern Europe. I've been to Norway, now Sweden. I'll be going to Denmark, and then Austria, and my tour in Germany, with the whole objective of dialogue with the Gambian community in the diaspora.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sallah, again. This is the Re-Enter the Gambia. It's a platform that raises awareness on issues affecting the country, which is Gambia. And then we invite phenomenal people, very educated and activists, and find solutions towards the issue. So we're very humbled to have you on board. And today's topic is solutions towards ending tribalism and then reconciliation. Before going further, do you have anything to say on the topic?
Well, clearly I do, because essentially the topic is the foundation of the Gambian nation that we are talking about. It is unfortunate that we are talking about it now. It shows that something has not been done. And a nation which fails to do its homework is clearly bound to be late in finding solutions to its problems. And I must say that if Gambian people truly know their history, we will not be talking about this issue that you are talking about now. That is tribalism and reconciliation. The very foundation of the coalition that we have established to effect change in 2016 was motivated by the fundamental desire to build a Gambia that we own, a Gambia that is fit for us to live in. And we were conscious of the fact that we own the Gambia and did not deserve any leadership that would usurp our power, our sovereign power, and impose a coercive rule over us. And we were conscious of the fact that because the instrument of the state powerful as it is not owned by any Gambian, but is entrusted to leadership. And that leadership, whoever may be at the helm, needed to have the honesty to know that they are just public trustees and the power that they were controlling did not belong to them and should have been utilized to protect our liberty, properties, and prosperity. Failing to adhere to that contract, which is between those who elect and those who are elected, we saw the need to come together to build the power of the people who own the power so that we take back what we own. In simple terms, that was the agenda for the coalition. We gave birth to the change that occurred in 2016. The fact that we are now talking about tribalism or reconciliation confirms that there are many people in the Gambia who are yet to be Gambian. Mm-hmm. And nothing is not a greater tragedy than not to know yourself. Look at the boundaries of the Gambia. How did it emerge? That is history. It shows that the country we now call the Gambia had to evolve to become the Gambia. We need to know that. We move around the world. Nobody is given any other passport of an ethno-linguistic nature or religious nature or on the basis of gender. You're given a Gambian passport, which means that we belong to a nation. That also has a history. Why is the Gambia a nation? With territorial integrity, with political independence, with sovereignty, with equal power as the biggest nation on earth when we appear before the United Nations. Why is that the case? It has a history. We are seen as citizens of a nation and everywhere considered as a Gambian people. That has a history. And once we know that history, then there will be no room for what we call the concept of tribalism. And we will not be talking about reconciliation, because wherever there is good governance, where the people consider themselves as compatriot citizens of a nation, then there will be no conflict in the first place to require any form of reconciliation. So, on the topic, I believe it is necessary for Gambians who do not know, who still believe that tribalism exists, who may think in a way that gives the impression that they are different from other Gambians. We believe that once we put the history on record, we may have the solutions and the answers without further delay. Fundamentally, this geopolitical entity that we call the Gambia started to be Gambia on the 10th of August, 1889, when the British Crown and the French Republic agreed to draw this boundary, carved it so that you will differentiate the territory colonized by the French so that to be colonized by the British. And therefore, the external personality of the country was born, and the external boundary of the new entity was drawn. Internally, there were struggles. Many of you who may know your history, you know how the struggle for this, the eventual agreement between Musa Molo and the colonizers in order to pacify him, not knowing their intentions, but ultimately they either conquered or pacified the leaders of different territories which were carved, ultimately cut in pieces to become the Gambia, to accept by 1902 total subjugation at the territory under the British Crown. The territory was divided into only proper and protectorate, and divided further into divisions to be managed by commissioners, and districts to be run by chiefs who were under the tutelage of the commissioners, had to obey them, and village heads who had to obey the district chiefs and the district regional divisional commissioner, who also had to obey the governor. So proper Gambia became a colony, and we became subjects. We did not have a country. We were not a people. So consequently, we had to go through a whole history of decades to found ourselves. We cannot go into all that history. But what is important is to bear in mind that by 1965, agreement was reached for the Gambia to begin the process of owning ourselves, that is, attaining the right to self-determination and independence. But because we were still not fully conscious of who we are, we continued to be under the executive authority of the British Crown, which was manifested by the existence of a Governor General until 24 April 1970, when we became a republic, and Gambians and Gambia no longer owed any allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or state. That is what independence means. We became independent. That is what self-determination means. It means that we should guide our own destiny. We had political independence, territorial integrity, sovereignty. But that sovereignty must lie somewhere. Under the British Crown, sovereignty resided in the monarch, in the queen. But under a sovereign republic, sovereignty resides in us. That is why even the 1997 Constitution, to quicken this history, states under its fourth chapter, Gambia is a sovereign republic, but sovereignty resides in the people of Gambia. So that means that you, me, every Gambian, male, female, any language you may come from, any ethno-linguistic, any religion, we are all sovereign Gambians. And the sovereignty of the country is deposited in us. So that makes every single Gambian a solid block of the sovereignty of the land. And it is equal to the other, that is one person, one vote. The vote is the depository of our sovereignty, because it is that sovereignty that should determine our manner of government. That is why under even the 1997 Constitution, it says that no one has any authority to govern the Gambia unless that authority is derived from the people of the Gambia, meaning from us, the sovereign Gambians, each having the power to decide who that authority is going to be entrusted to. And it further emphasized, and that is really what shows that there should be no conflict, not to talk about reconciliation. It affirmed that authority should be exercised for no other purpose but to promote the general welfare and prosperity of the Gambian people. And now we have power to select and appoint and elect an executive. That executive has power to manage the affairs of our country, maintain the resources that we own, establish the government departments that are necessary and ministries, and put the resources of the country into those ministries to provide health service, educational service, roads, electricity, water supply, everything that makes a person to live in prosperity. That authority has the duty to establish a judicial system with judges and magistrates and whose role will be to ensure that justice is delivered without delay, and justice will be delivered that will be seen to be done by all. people who will exercise impartiality and independence in the dispensation of office. So essentially, we're talking about having rights. We're talking about the whole security apparatus respecting those rights and protecting those rights, which means that each of us, because we own the country, we are embodied with rights of life, liberty, freedom to have our privacy respected, freedom of expression, freedom to own a media, express our opinions in the media, freedom of religion, practice religion, freedom to associate, any form of association, unions, women organization, youth organization, all organization, because that constitutes the strength of the people, authority of the people, so that those combined groups will serve as the mouthpieces of different sectors of society to impact on what the government does. We have even freedom for political association. That's why we talk about political power. Freedom to petition those who are in power so that they do what is right and know what they're doing wrong. So essentially, the whole architecture of the state is to make it a state to protect our liberty and prosperity, not a state to coerce us. So today, if Gambia had evolved as required under a reform, and you, me, as early as it could be, taught that we own the Gambia, and throughout our educational system, up to high school, bit by bit, we know what the Constitution is, the law. We know the duties of representatives, the duties of public servants, the duties of the citizenry, and their rights. All our rights known to us according to our capacity to understand and the level of our education. And we rise up further and further for 47 years. America. Would we be where we are today? Absolutely. Because Gambia is a very rich nation with an ocean. I went to Norway and I've spoken to the Norwegian authorities, their history. Very humble leader. And it was very clear that before they discovered oil, Norway was a fishing nation. And look at the ocean in the Gambia. And we're still talking about poverty, a source of sovereign national wealth. How many millions, hundreds of millions, now we're talking about thousands of billions, have been wasted during this 52 years? How many ocean fishing vessels could we have had? And the processing of all that on our terrain, how many jobs? The multiplying effect with all the gains that we would have made and invested whatever gain into buying machinery to process our groundnuts into oil. We import still over 600 million. I'm sure the latest statistics will be much more. Edible oil, we can produce it. Produce all forms of seeds that can actually produce oil. So by now, over 600 million would have been pumped in our national economy on an annual basis. Look at our rice. We have saved 200,000 tons of rice is what we need to consume. Produce by 1915, 7,000 tons. So if we produce all, we are talking about 1.9 billion injected in our productive base on an annual basis. Where would Gambia would be by now? We say 52 years of independent years.
Sorry about that. It looks
yes.
a call.
Became a report, right?
Yeah, it's back now.
So essentially, we are talking about a nation that would have processed this rice, creating jobs, and that wealth also being in the hands of our people. Look at our mangoes, our vegetables, fruit juices of all sorts could have been produced. Vegetable products of all sorts could have been produced. We had the ITC before, whose objective was to upgrade the milk production capacity of the Ndama cattle, which had tremendous resistance as far as illness. Where is that project now? Since the first, how much milk would have been producing? How much cheese? How much butter? How much yogurt? What is development in other parts of the world except to take raw materials and transform it into other forms of manufactured goods that we consume? That's what development is all about. We have all that capacity. We've seen in Khartoum, Batukunkusanyang, mining was taking place for years. No one saw where the wealth was. Since the First Republic, since independence, what prospecting was done in the Gambia to know where do we have diamonds, where do we have all sorts of minerals, and it is evident that we have minerals. So we could have, and this is a nation of less than 2 million people. What is moving the Kuwaits and all these other countries? Oil. Sovereign national wealth, controlled by those who control state power. Norway utilized that sovereign national wealth to secure the prosperity and general welfare of our people. We could have done that, and we need to do that. And if we had done that, each developing according to his or her capacity, we have an executive elected by us with that sovereign national wealth to provide hospitals for us, schools for us, infrastructure for us, electricity supply, consistent water supply. Each of us develop our capacity in terms of education, each occupying the division of labor in society based on our capacity, paid on the basis of the quantity and quality of work that we do. Who will be dissatisfied? Who will go to a hospital and say, I'm a Mandinka speaking, Wolof speaking, Jola speaking, so I want Jola speaking doctor, Wolof speaking doctor, Mandinka speaking nurse. What we want is good health. And we'll be proud of any of our citizens who will go and do the painstaking work of studying and learning how to be the best doctors to serve a nation. We'll appreciate the nurse with that capacity to serve us when we are ill, irrespective of the ethno-linguistic origin of that person. We'll appreciate the teacher who will take time to take care of our children, to nurture them, to give them knowledge, to give them skills, to give them values, to give them character, to teach them basic education which makes them to understand themselves, to understand who they are, to know that they are embodiment of dignity of self-worth. And that is their duty is to learn to be human beings, to have knowledge and skills and values that will enable every one of them to be respected. To prepare young men and young women for leadership, prepare them for sovereign citizenship, to know that both are the same, because out of the citizen, leaders are born. And from the citizens, leaders are entrusted with responsibility, not because they are superior, but because we simply know that they can do the job. And when they do, we benefit, they benefit. That is the type of society we were supposed to build. And that type of society has no room for an individual claiming to be from this religion or that religion, this ethno-linguistic group or that ethno-linguistic group, because it becomes irrelevant. We would have evolved as a nation to become a people. And our diversity being just a fact of life, but will not impact on our integrity as to who we are and what position we are to occupy in society. So then, if we are to talk about national reconciliation now, something has gone wrong. And what had gone wrong is we became a sovereign nation without a sovereign people. We fought also to change 52 years of self-perpetuating rule. 52 years of an education system, that you can go up to university without knowing what a constitution is. And when people even talk about it, you feel that is academic, it's not relevant. But then when somebody imposes coercion on you from the angle of the state, then you complain about violation of rights, about dictatorship. When you have the power for 52 years to determine who should manage your affairs, and you have a constitution that says nobody is fit to govern the people of the Gambia who lacks the capacity to deliver general welfare and prosperity. In black and white, that's what the Constitution says. But we have been made to see all that as irrelevant, kept ignorant, kept in a state of despair. We struggle very hard to understand how to effect change. And finally, we did effect change. How? Must be understood. The foundation of that change, whether you know it or not, is because some Gambians knew that there constitute two pillars of power in a sovereign republic: the power of the state and the power of the people. Because the state could be entrusted by people who could use up the power of the people and use the military, the police, the law enforcement to impose tyranny on the people. It was also understood that if the people wanted to effect that change, then they must be united and aware of the need for change. It became clear that in a democratic society, even if tyranny wants to eradicate that democracy, once the people persist and are aware and organized, tyranny cannot prevail. So Gambia has proven that. And our people now must move to the next level. The next level is to build a nation, to build a people. It is a people who had the capacity to effect change. It is the people who can now develop the capacity to build a nation. And that must be on a foundation of respecting, asserting, conserving the sovereignty of each person. So now, if we want a unity based on our lessons, the lessons we have learned, if we want a reconciliation, if we truly want to put an end to what people call tribalism, and I'll come to that, then the starting point is to build a nation, to become a nation. Each Gambian must become a sovereign citizen. And we must recognize that we must build a community of sovereign citizens who are equal in sovereignty, irrespective of their ethno-linguistic origin, religion, or gender, or any characteristics, political opinion. And then build a society where people will begin to know the role of the executive. Because if you know that the role of the executive is to take resources from us, conserve our natural resources, and put it all in a consolidated fund that we call the national budget, and use that to build ministries and provide services so that we can have liberty and prosperity. If we genuinely know that, then we'll know that there is no room to think in what people call a tribal way. Because if you have a so-called Wolof president, so-called Mandinka president, Jola president, Salakula president, Fula president, Mankan president, Aku president, Manjago president, all the language groupings, and you are a messenger, you are a driver under the present system, grade 1. If you go to the accountant to receive your salary, and grade 1s receive less than $1,000 a month, the accountant will not say, because the president who is there is from your ethno-linguistic group, I'm going to increase your salary to what will enable you to buy a bag of rice and feed your family because you belong to the group. That's not how it works. You will receive less than $1,000 like all the other drivers, irrespective of the ethno-linguistic group. If electricity should be provided and that government did not invest in what would make it consistent, accessible, available, affordable, irrespective of your ethno-linguistic group and that of the president who presides over the affairs of the nation, you will suffer the same deprivation. So clearly, the whole concept that people want to develop about ethno-linguistic loyalties in politics is nothing but instrument of deception. It's meant to keep the ignorant under the control of those who have vested interests, to keep them ignorant for their interests. So if any human being wants to be a horse on whose back other human beings would ride from the cradle to the grave and still call you a good horse belonging to the person, well, it's their choice. But Gambia is moving and will move on. And will move on with those who are conscious of being Gambians, those who are proud of their history of struggle to take charge of their destiny in their own hands. And that struggle triumphed in December 2016. And nobody can put the Gambian people to sleep again. It is impossible. There may be delays, there may be distractions, but ultimately those who know what sovereignty means will be proud of who they are, that nobody is more powerful than them, because the vote is equal. And once we make informed choice, we will have governments that will respect us, government that will serve us, government that will be fit to govern us, and we'll have a society that is fit for us to live in.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sallah. That was very clear and well said. What's your own view on the recent social media push and pull on tribalism? Because a lot of people believe that tribalism exists in the Gambia, but many don't believe. So what's your take on that?
Well, I've dealt with this issue here in Europe. And I've said provocatively to young people, especially young women, who invited me to discussion. And it was a very interesting discussion because we were looking at identity. We're looking at partnership. We're looking at their development. And we got into many issues to show that the human being should know who he is or she is. Then that person will be an embodiment of self-esteem. And nobody will be able to dehumanize you. Nobody will be able to discriminate you. We went into that, and I believe that through the discussion, we go eye to eye. One thing that I emphasize is that there is nothing like racism. There is nothing like tribalism, Islamism. And because we give wrong nomenclature to reactionary concepts and behavior, we in fact give them strength and vitality to hang on. Ask them the question, was Hitler not a European? And what was his color? But how many Europeans were saved from his wrath? Who was he protecting? White people? So essentially, we must look at that issue properly. If somebody put on a vest and explodes, killing people who belong to even the Islamic religion, should we call that person an Islamist? Who is he protecting? Same thing with what I've just described. If you say,
sorry about that. It's like
so if we say that there is tribalism, but then it is very clear that
can you hear us, Jacob?
So it's very clear too that if you say tribalism, because a particular president is defined to belong to a particular language group. Now, I have made it very clear that those women who will leave their farms 5 o'clock in the morning to come to the urban areas to sell their vegetables, sit on the ground, stand under the rain, under the hot sun, sometimes with babies on their back, sell very few things. Sometimes they cannot sell it and then it rots. Regardless of the ethno-linguistic group they keep, those that change their status, if they have somebody else who is from the same ethno-linguistic group, residents at the State House, clearly their life remains the same. So how are they protected by having somebody there who belongs to the ethno-linguistic? What will change their existence is what will change the existence of all women of that category. If you have a cooperative which goes to their farms and buy their vegetables, they will not pick and choose whether they're going to buy the vegetables of this ethno-linguistic or the ethno-linguistic group. They will buy the vegetables of all the women who produce vegetables, and all of them will benefit. So claiming to be from an ethno-linguistic group of a particular president does not change the status of that person. It only retains the mentality of that person. And therefore, the person will have foolish pride, pride in poverty, pride in deprivation, pride in suffering. So essentially, when the person attacks the other person, it's not because the person has received any benefit. It is all on the basis of foolish pride. Inside your mind, you believe that you are somebody you are not. Because the person at the State House will be a well provided for person. For you, you'll be lying on bed of thorns with mosquitoes feeding on your flesh, all sorts of parasites, and at the end of the day, diabetes, any form of illness. And obviously, if the society cannot provide your health needs, you will die in poverty. So you simply become a person who is born in poverty. You live in that poverty, suffer, and die in poverty. That's not what anybody wants. So we utilize certain associations for our own gain. As I have clearly said, we have two persons in one. One person is a person, the other is a citizen. A person can be born a male or female. That's an accident of birth. A person can choose to be a Muslim Christian. That's a choice. To belong to this political party, that's a choice. You may be born into what people classify as an ethno-linguistic group. That's an accident of birth and an accident of history, because you may be born at a time when that is an issue. But if you're not born at a time when that's an issue, well, then it does not affect you. So in short, we are saying that citizenship is now a right and duty of a people to take charge of their own destiny. And everyone is equal in citizenship, so there is no minority in a sovereign republic, because all would have one vote. And when it's time to vote, you take the queue. They do not make you to queue on the basis of your gender, on the basis of your ethno-linguistic origin, on the basis of your religion. You go and queue as a citizen in secret, you cast your vote, and you go home. They will count, and whoever has the majority will be seated in the position of position of leadership. So essentially, that's what we are saying. That therefore, where is really the tribalism? What we have, you can have oligarchies, people who collaborate on the basis of what they think is religion or tribe or characteristics, just to be able to carry out something to serve their own individual interests. That is always possible. But essentially, the vast majority who own society will not be beneficiaries of any compact of oligarchs. They will benefit at society's expense. So what is important is for people to bear in mind that certain statements, if you make and you perpetuate them, then of course you have self-fulfilled prophecy. It will happen. During the impasse, who denied that power was in the hands of Jannah? But when we said that yes, the Constitution allows him to stay, but on the 18th of January, he will no longer be the powerful person that you imagine, that he will be a rebel. That is the statement. Making it at that material time, you will feel, whoa, this is being said with this powerful man being there, he will crush everybody. Yes, because the instrument of coercion was in his hands. But then the truth also was that he has lost an election. And constitutionally, if he stayed after the 18th, it would be. But because people were not used to hearing that, and they had no justification for saying it, when it was said, and they believed it to be true, and continued to believe it, and accepted it, until the whole of society accepted it, didn't change occur, it occurred. So scientifically, if you take a concept and unremittingly you repeat it, you'll make that to become true. And if Gambians continue to repeat rather than if they see something wrong with a particular leader, criticize the leader. Say what the leader is doing wrong and let that leader accept misrepresentation and misrule. But don't extend that to a religious grouping or tribal grouping or a gender. That's where you strengthen misrule. Because those who are not beneficiaries, by virtue of what you say, will begin to ally with the very person who is perpetrating an act which will be to the detriment of everybody. If you continue to say, it's just like Jolas this. Obviously, if you believe that every Jola you see is that you say Mandinkas this, you'll see it. So, because you will say certain derogatory remarks, the person who in fact may not have allied with that particular person will begin to say, this person is the representative of me. So if you attack the person on the basis of the tribe, then of course you are also attacking me. So insults will come between people who are all really oppressed people, people who are not benefiting from misrule, and at the end of the day, you create civil war. So what is important for Gambians is let's move to be citizens of the Gambia. Let's collectively know that we want a leadership that utilize our natural and other resources to build the schools and hospitals and the services that we need in prosperity, and build the type of military security apparatus and judicial system that will deliver justice to us and protect our rights. That is what we need, and that is what we deserve. And whoever brings another argument or other that discussion, well, that belongs to somebody else, not the conscious Gambian citizen. The conscious Gambian citizen are ready to unite with other conscious Gambian citizens so that we build a new Gambia for all of us.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Sallah. And rates. Do you believe that what we have is strong?
Repeat that question.
Do you believe political identity of the last presidential elections with some conflict, tribalism, APM, California's area, dominated areas, coalition swept in Mandika areas and GDC won in fuller areas. What is your comment on that?
Well, I am emphasizing that the reason why we are here, 47 years of ignorance and miseducation is why we are here. If you ask me whether people are ignorant in terms of politics, I will say yes. You are 100% correct. But if people vote thinking that they are protecting a tribe, then they are equally, again, ignorant of why they are voting. And if people interpret the votes as that, then they are also equally ignorant why we even have the vote. So ignorance can make you do things. That's what I am saying. I'm saying you can believe that you are really protecting a tribe, or you're protecting a race, or you're protecting a religion. The person who goes and say, I will bomb buildings, he thinks that he's really protecting Islam. But is he really protecting Islam? That is the question. So the answer of the conscious person and the answer of the ignorant person cannot be the same, because they are not seeing the world in the same way. I am telling you, the ignorant Gambians will tell you that tribalism exists, because they will see it in the way people are voting. And those people who are voting also, if they believe they are casting their vote to protect a tribe, they are equally ignorant. That's what I'm saying. Because that's not the purpose of the vote. They don't know the purpose of the vote. The purpose of the vote.
That was Halifa Sallah, the leader of the PDOIS, and he'll be back with us shortly. It looks like he has another incoming call. You're on the Re-Enter the Gambia platform, and this is the Reality Show with Fatima. And
so that is
welcome back. Your camera is not on.
My answer is there is a battle of ideas in the Gambia, in the world. There was a battle of ideas in the Gambia before the change. 99.9% of Gambians did not believe that change could come to the ballot box. It is now that people are taking ownership of the change. Most Gambians never believed that change could come through the ballot box. Most Gambians during the impasse never believed that the man will go without a fight. So therefore, we must see the battle of ideas. And sometimes the weight of the argument will be on one side, because that's what the majority believes. But it's not that what the majority believes is always what is correct. So what is important is to know what is correct. I am saying Gambians have votes not because of their tribes, their religions, their gender. They have voting power because of their citizenship. And they are supposed to vote not to put a tribal fellow in office. They are supposed to vote to bring a Gambian president in office who will be managing our resources, our treasury, where you will find the money of every group in the country. And when that money is utilized, build a school is for everybody, hospital for everybody, infrastructure for everybody, electricity, water for everybody. So where is the tribal element? In their brains. Yes, go ahead and put in your brain that you believe that you are protecting the interests of a tribe. But that's you. But the reality is, if we do not use our brain to put in office people who are Gambian citizens with the responsibility to use their knowledge and skills and commit themselves to building the institutions that we need to guarantee our liberty and prosperity, we will go to our graves in poverty with the mentality that we have. Because all we have is a mentality, not material reality. Material reality cannot be changed by adhering to a belief that you are protecting or your tribe is protecting you. That's an illusion.
Thank you very much. The next question reads, the Gambia today is politically divided and the healing process appears to be a daunting task. What are your concerns about the challenges of the national healing process?
The situation is very clear. There is a battle of ideas in the Gambia. And what will help us to win the second battle after removing self-perpetuating rule is to build a new Gambian. A Gambian who understands why he is a citizen, she's a citizen of a nation. That's what we are not talking about healing between Jolas and Mandinkas and groups of Christians and Muslims. No, we are talking about helping each Gambian to discover his or her sovereignty and seeing that he or she is a compatriot of the other Gambian. And collectively, they need to use their collective intelligence to guide our collective destiny so that we become an architect of a destiny of liberty, dignity, and prosperity. That is the battle. There are Gambians who are perpetuating that. Join hands. They must move to become stronger and stronger, just like the impasse. We said on the 18th, the person who occupied executive authority must leave or be a rebel. He was powerful then. Nobody believed it, but it happened. The clarion call is that we as a nation evolved from being subject, from a colony, to become independent, so that each of us will be a custodian, the depository of the sovereignty of the land, for each of us to become powerful. And united, we become a people. That is the task now. It should have been built 47 years ago, but the work was not done. That work must be done now. So any Gambian who believes that one is a Gambian must begin that work, even alone. Believe it and work for it. When you become 2, you are becoming greater. 10, in fact, you are more powerful. Those 10 will convince another 100 if each of them convince 10. And the 100 each convincing 10, that's 1,000. 1,000 each convincing 10, that's 10,000. 10,000 each convincing 100,000. 100 each convincing, that's the population of the Gambia. So it starts with you believing that you are a Gambian citizen, an embodiment of the sovereignty of the land. And without being united with the other sovereign Gambian, you are no people. You don't have a nation. You will have a tattered existence and will be easy to dominate. And we will live in poverty for the rest of our lives. Nobody will ever respect us. The respect that Gambia has now is because we developed the capacity to come and unite and effect change, democratic change. That's why Gambia is respected all over the world. If we now fail to consolidate that unity to build a nation, obviously we'll lose all the respect we had before, and we'll continue to be what we were yesterday. And we have ourselves alone to blame.
One last question, please. Only the last question.
Yeah, we maybe can have 2 more questions and then wrap up. Is to transitional justice. What are your thoughts on this important agenda? Is the government on track in this issue?
Well, obviously, the government has been very late, and as a result, many things have actually crept into the whole agenda, which we could have, in fact, prevented if we acted very early. Fundamentally, the government should have come up with a development blueprint a long time ago. The architecture was already laid, but delayed. And with that architecture, transitional justice would have been part of it. You would not have singling effect of justice. It will be global, because you will know exactly how to deal with the past government. Its leader, its ministers, its public servants, security apparatus, this needed to be discussed many months ago, so that you create the institutions of the transition. Now, the institution of the transition is being created piecemeal, and consequently, you're going to have many gaps. And I believe that is the shortcoming. But notwithstanding, to start late is better than not to start at all. So what is absolutely essential now is to put in place the machinery for constitutional reform, so that we know concretely what the machinery is, and it should start work. If you're going to create a commission, Constitutional Review Commission, you create the commission. That should have been the first commission to be created. If you're going to have transitional justice, you create the commission, so that it starts work. And obviously, that's where the debate comes, because if you create a bill, it must come to the National Assembly for discussion. Therefore, you will have real nationwide global discussion about the content, and we'll be able to convince each other what is best. Because the most important thing now is to prevent a reoccurrence, and to have a transition where you do not create new victims, so that at the end of the day, before the government goes here and there, it will have its own skeleton in its own cupboard. This is what must be avoided. So there should be no delay in creating the institutions that are necessary, so that we prevent the government from even getting into issues that may ultimately even sidetrack its activities. Let me just give you an example. There was one time, if everything was left, over 1,000 compounds or so would have been, dismantled, demolished in that Nemasu area. Can you imagine if that happened? What would that mean to the Barra government? Even though you may be moving from the angle of justice, but was this justice under his government? That's what transitional justice is all about. All the cases, everything in the past should have been reviewed to know exactly what you need to do to prevent a reoccurrence. The issue of detaining military officers without trial, etc. This should not have been necessary. Once you put a system in place, then the system will act in accordance with the Constitution. But once you have this haphazard way of doing so many things, at the end of the day, you will end up without a system. And you will end up making so many errors in between that when you build the system, it may not even be seen to have the force, moral authority that it deserves. So essentially what I'm saying is that we must know that President Barrow was elected as an independent president. That independent president it was meant to enable him to be free. Out of the National Assembly election, nobody, no party has power to impeach him on your own power. So therefore, at this moment, he is shielded. Anybody who is interested in what we sought to bring in the Gambia, that is to effect change through a coalition so that we can give Gambia a new start, must help him.
Yes, Mr. It looks like they're having a problem with their a technical problem. So yeah, welcome back, Mr. Sallah.
So all those who know establish the coalition must begin to help him not to lose focus. Because you'll hear people say, Jamio, people were afraid of him. That's why people will not do this. Youths are this. They're becoming rowdy, etc., etc. So many different things. And at the end of the day, they will end up pushing you to take measures that would not be considered democratic. And at the end of the day, they will still blame you for taking those measures. So at this moment, he must see himself to be managing a transition that should build a new Gambia, a transition that will help him to build a Gambia that everybody will own, and that will require compromises. He's in the best position to know what he should do. He has power to seek counsel from all of us, the National Assembly, from everybody. He can call any individual, he can call National Assembly members, he can call anybody to seek counsel about anything. So therefore, he should exercise that executive power where he controls the executive power to ensure that he guides himself to manage a transition where there will be no reoccurrence of the past or create new moral issues that he will find very difficult to address. I believe that is what is necessary at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much. Probably the last question, and it reads, what are the lawmakers doing to help address Gambia's ethnic and political challenges? Is the Assembly active in the reconciliation process?
Well, the Assembly is not a monolithic group. It's a heterogeneous group with personalities, with their ideas and thinking, and ways of expression and ways of seeing Gambia. What is important is to look at each of the deputies and see what they are doing. I am here talking to you. I'm a deputy. I know my fundamental objective. My fundamental objective is to be committed to the sovereign Gambia, the sovereign citizen who, with others, know that power resides in them. And because power can be destructive if divided, strength can only come from unity. Therefore, I am promoting the unity of all sovereign Gambians, irrespective of their ethno-linguistic origin, gender, religion, so that we build the constitution that guarantees our sovereign power. The laws, electoral laws that guarantee our sovereign power, the institutions that guarantee our sovereign power, civic education and educational system where we review our education system so that at kindergarten we start building democratic and republican values in our small children. At primary school, they see the national flag and know that what is important.
I think we need to just.
Okay. Yes.
We need to wrap up now, Jakong.
Yes, so it's so what is important?
Yeah.
If you have a nursery school, start teaching the children there. National, tell them that the future sovereign Gambians, united, will occupy all aspects of society in order to be able to build a nation which will be considered great and respected because of the quality of life of the citizens. Do so in songs and let everybody be creative in building that Gambia, the sovereign Gambia, that nation, where ultimately we are definitely going to belong to different associations because each of us has the right to association. So you have a right to belong to a political party to support the program of your party. And we debate constructively on the basis of how each party is going to go. And ultimately, of course, a party and individual will help bring a person in office who would be a president, who would be a National Assembly member. Those are things that must happen. What we want now is to build the environment where, when that happens, each of us consciously will have a purpose putting that person in office. And when that person goes wrong, even those who supported that person would be able to say, hey, we did not elect you for this. And we'll combine the rest who did not agree so that eventually they evolve the political system where we continue to make informed choice and have leaders that are fit to govern us. That is really the task at the moment. And it's an individual task, it's a collective task, not only the task of people who are part of institutions.
Okay, thank you very much. And this is my final question. And it reads, do you have any advice for the diaspora community about tolerance and constructive political participation?
Well, you know, when you have freedom of association and freedom of expression, well, people are free to exercise it in any way, and you cannot call them irresponsible for exercising in this way or that way, because all that is opinion. There is opinion and there is fact. Now, in terms of fact, all of us are who want what is good. We should seek fact, because when facts shape our opinion, then our opinions will become mature. But when emotions shape our opinion, of course, we can express it and we alienate people. So, but I believe that every human being in the world wants self-respect and wants to be respected by others and appreciated by others. I've never met a person on this earth who does not want to be appreciated or respected. So therefore, my counsel is that we do not want to live in life and end our life in disrepute. So Gambians here and abroad should know that we are ambassadors of our country. We must be embodied with dignity and self-worth, and that is inconceivable without showing our intelligence, showing our maturity, showing our tolerance, showing we are really the universal human being. It is important in our religions, in our beliefs, in our way of life, that we have some unique elements arising from the Gambia, but we need to have some universality. That when we talk, for example, I was here, I've spoken to many Swedish and Norwegian authorities, and I've discussed the migration problem, and essentially, I believe we have sympathy in the issue now, more than ever. What I told them was very clear, that there is fright that the whole world will be coming to this part of the world. And this part of the world cannot shoulder that population. But that is really not the way of seeing the whole migration issue. That it cannot be seen from a narrow nationalistic point of view. What should be understood is that lack of proper leadership in our part of the world, look at Gambia and its wealth. If we had leaders who could harness it, how many Gambians would be coming, to this part of the world? Only those who would be willing to move will move. So essentially, because of a leadership that had not harnessed our resources. 60% of our population is in the rural areas, 40% in the urban area, and there are no industries, no jobs. So therefore, people are pushed to go outside in search of better lives. So if we put security mechanisms to try to prevent people from coming, and that amount to billions being invested in security alone, well, what would that bring? Because still, our people will be poor on the other side. They will not be able still, our people will be poor on the other side. They will not be able to move, but they will also not be able to consume all this technology that is coming from Europe. So at the end of the day, what will happen? Well, they will have Europe and other countries producing a lot of technology and materials that people will not be able to consume. So their industries will collapse. And our part of the world is the same. So there will be world depression. So that's not a win-win situation. That's a lose-lose situation. On the contrary, the billions that they will be putting in security, if they put it in small, medium-sized enterprises, help the Gambian diaspora and other diaspora to go back and at least have small companies combined with all the Gambians on shareholding basis and process some of these things that we have there, export it to their part of the world. Obviously, we'll be able to consume some things from them. They'll be able to consume something from us. And of course, we will create a world which will be moving and developing with democracy and development. So in that sense, the agenda is really for no country to become myopic, narrow, nationalistic, but we see that the national problem is connected to the world problem, and collectively we can all work together in partnership on the basis
Thank you very much.
On the basis of an agenda for or a compact for democracy and development, and they should support democratic government. They should solidarity to people from those countries, either in the formal, informal sector, cooperative, private sector, or state sector. Collaborations could be effected to create a better world, and this is the agenda, and I see that they enthusiastically embrace the agenda. So essentially, we have to work to build not only our countries, but a world of tolerance, a world of democracy, a world of development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sallah. That was it for today. Do you have any final words for the Gambian people at large?
Well, it's simply this. Let's not expect a monolithic country that people will have the same ideas and start attacking each other on the basis of just opinions. What we need is to understand that we have a project. The project is to build a nation, sovereign nation, which ultimately will have level ground for people to engage in multi-party contests and debates. That's what we need. That's what is here in Sweden and everywhere else. So we need a country that builds a nation for all of us. And that is the point. We have not done that, and we need to do that. Then we will not be talking about ethnicity and things of that nature. We'll be talking about the programs and policies that different parties have and help us to make informed choices in order to have leadership. So the battle now is a real battle of ideas. And we should not allow ourselves to be kept ignorant. The battle now is a battle of ideas. And those who cannot prepare themselves to win that battle will prepare themselves to be the rejects of the human race. That is the challenge.
Yeah. Very much for joining us today, Mr. Halifa Sallah. And we are very humble and we save and in Scandinavia. I'm hoping to soon in the Gambia. Yeah. Today, thank you everyone. And that you are watching the reality show with our uncle Halifa Sallah. Halifa Sallah is in Sweden, Gothenburg, and we'll be going to Denmark tomorrow. Am I right, Mr. Sallah?
Yes, indeed.
To Denmark. So those of you that are in Denmark, out in large numbers and join Mr. Sallah, the Gambian diaspora in Denmark. So thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. I appreciate and wish you the best of luck.
Yeah. Yeah. Good luck as well. Bye.
Hello everyone, my name is Fatima Jakumbajabi, I enter the Gambia representative living in Sweden, Gothenburg. As we enter the Gambia, we talk about issues affecting the country and look for a way forward. We also help in promoting Gambian entrepreneurs living in the country and abroad. And I am your host for the Reality Show on your favorite platform, We Enter the Gambia. On the Reality Show, we'll bring you hot debated topics on issues affecting the sustainable development of the Gambia and more. Please follow us and like our page on Facebook, Re-Enter the Gambia, for more educative and great programs.